Everyone in the diner ignored the little boy desperately moving his hands, but she knew sign language and signed back. His eyes lit up like she'd just given him the world. What she didn't know was that his father was the city's most feared mafia boss, and her kindness had just changed all their lives forever. The neon light above the diner window buzzed faintly, casting a soft red glow on the rain-slicked street outside. Olivia Bennet was halfway through her third cup of coffee, trying to stay awake through another restless night, when the door creaked open. A little boy stepped in, alone, soaked to the bone, his wide blue eyes scanning the room in panic. No one moved. The waitress froze behind the counter. A couple by the window pretended not to see him, and the cook disappeared into the kitchen, like the kid carried a curse. But Olivia noticed his hands. They moved fast, trembling, shaping words in the air. "Help! Please!" She blinked, her heart catching. Sign language. 15 years ago, she'd learned it for her younger sister, who had been deaf since birth. She hadn't used it since the accident. Slowly, she lifted her own hands and signed back. "It's okay. You're safe." The boy froze, staring at her as if she'd just spoken magic. His name, she soon learned, was Ethan, and for the first time that night, he smiled. But before she could ask where his parents were, the bell above the door clanged again. This time, the man who entered made the entire diner fall silent. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black with eyes like steel, he carried danger the way other men carried briefcases. And when his gaze locked on the boy, relief broke through the storm on his face. "Ethan," he said, voice low but shaking. Olivia's breath hitched. The most feared man in the city had just walked into her life, and he was the boy's father. Rain still whispered against the diner windows long after Adrian Russo and his son had gone, but Olivia Bennet couldn't shake the image of the boy's trembling hands or the storm in his father's eyes. She told herself it didn't matter, that people like them didn't cross paths with people like her twice. But 3 weeks later, on another sleepless night, she found herself glancing toward the door every time it opened, expecting to see him. When he finally returned, it wasn't the calm she'd imagined. It was chaos. 2 men in suits entered first, their presence sharp and wrong, their smiles too clean. They ordered coffee they didn't drink, asked questions about a man with a kid, their tone making it clear this wasn't small talk. Olivia lied, said she didn't know who they meant, and when one of them leaned close enough for her to smell the alcohol on his breath, he whispered, "If he comes back, you call us." He slid a card across the counter. No names, just a number embossed in gold. She nodded, pocketed it, and threw it into the trash the second they left. But fear doesn't vanish with the sound of a bell. That night, her car tires were slashed. The next morning, a black SUV idled across the street for hours. And by the third day, she was looking over her shoulder at every corner. The quiet safety of her little world had cracked. It was near closing when the bell above the door chimed again. This time, it was him. Adrian Russo. Same dark coat. Same unreadable expression. But his eyes softened when they found hers. "You shouldn't be here," Olivia said before she could stop herself. "Neither should you," he replied, settling into the same booth. "Those men who came, what did they want?" She hesitated, then told him everything. He listened in silence, every muscle in his jaw tight. When she finished, he said only, "You handled it right. You told them nothing." "Who were they?" "The kind of men who believe fear is currency," he said. "And you?" she asked before she could stop herself. "What kind of man are you?" His eyes flicked up, a small humorless smile tugging at his lips. "The kind who makes sure those men don't get to you again." She felt the air shift, her pulse stumbling in her throat. "Why me?" "Because you helped my son. Because you spoke his language when no one else could." He stood, leaving a silver-embossed card on the table. "If anything happens," he said, "day or night, Call me. She never meant to use it. Until Ethan showed up again, alone. It was a Thursday, the diner half empty, the rain relentless. The boy burst through the door, soaked and crying. His small hands flew so fast she barely caught the signs. Bad men, gun, fire, Papa hurt. Her stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone and dialed the number on the card. "Where are you?" Adrian's voice was steady but strained. "The diner," she said. "Ethan's here. He says—" "Stay inside," he cut her off. "Lock the doors. I'm coming." He hung up before she could breathe another word. 15 minutes later, headlights cut through the storm. The door swung open, and there he was, alive but bleeding. His shirt was torn, his sleeves soaked with blood. "It's not mine," he said before she could speak. "We need to leave." "Leave," she echoed. "Where?" "Somewhere safe." His tone left no room for argument. Ethan ran to him, clutching his father's leg. Adrian knelt, brushed the boy's hair back, and signed gently. "We're okay. But we have to go." Olivia hesitated only a second before grabbing her coat. The black sedan outside gleamed with rain. When gunfire erupted from across the street, she ducked instinctively, heart pounding. The car windows cracked but didn't break, bulletproof. Within seconds, another vehicle pulled up behind, trapping the attackers. Adrian's men moved fast, efficient, silent. The whole thing was over before she could form a scream. "Who are you?" she whispered. He looked at her, rain dripping from his jaw. "A man trying to protect what's his." He didn't have to say who he meant. The drive out of the city was quiet except for the storm and the faint hum of the engine. Olivia watched the city lights fade, replaced by endless dark and flashes of lightning. When the car finally stopped, they were in front of a sprawling stone house tucked between the hills, a fortress disguised as a mansion. Security cameras tracked their movement. Guards opened the gate without a word. Inside, everything was warm and too perfect. Marble floors, expensive art, and the faint smell of cedar. "You'll be safe here," Adrian said. "No one can touch you." "You keep saying that," she replied, voice trembling. "Who are they?" He paused, as if deciding how much truth she could handle. "People I used to work with. People who don't like when I change the rules." "What rules?" "No children, no innocence." She blinked, unsure whether to be relieved or horrified. "And now they're after you?" "They think weakness spreads." He smiled bitterly. "They're not wrong." When she noticed his bleeding arm, she grabbed a towel. "You should sit down." "It's nothing." "You saved my life. Let me do something," she said. For a moment his eyes softened. "You don't owe me anything, Olivia." "That's not how I work." She cleaned the wound while he watched her, silent, intense. When she finished, he murmured, "You remind me of someone." "Your wife?" she guessed. He hesitated, then nodded. "She died 3 years ago. A car bomb meant for me." The air between them grew heavier. Olivia wanted to say something comforting, but words felt too small for that kind of loss. Instead, she placed a hand on his. "You're not the only one who's lost someone." "Your sister," he said quietly. "Ethan told me." Her breath caught. "He talks about her?" "He said you made him feel seen," Adrian replied. "That's rare in my world." For the first time he smiled. Not the guarded, half-dangerous smirk she'd seen before, but something real. It changed his entire face. The days that followed blurred into something fragile and strange. Olivia helped with Ethan, teaching him new signs, making pancakes in a kitchen bigger than her entire apartment. Adrian watched from the doorway more often than he joined, but sometimes, when Ethan laughed, he smiled too. There was peace in those moments, temporary but real. One evening, as the sun burned low and gold through the windows, Adrian found her on the porch. "You could leave, you know," he said quietly. I'd make sure you're safe. New name, new life. She turned to him. You really think I could walk away now? After everything? I want you to have a choice. Then let me choose to stay. He studied her for a long time. You don't know what that means. Maybe I do. Maybe it means I stop running from what scares me. When he kissed her, it wasn't reckless. It was careful, reverent, as if he'd forgotten what gentleness felt like. She didn't know how long they stood there, but for once, the world outside didn't feel like it was waiting to break them. That illusion shattered 2 nights later. Gunfire erupted in the distance. Adrian's men shouted orders, boots thundering across marble. He pulled Olivia into the hallway. Take Ethan, go to the basement. Don't open the door until I come for you. What about you? I finish what I started. She wanted to protest, but the look in his eyes stopped her. Downstairs, in the panic room, she held Ethan close as the house trembled above them. Every sound felt sharper, closer. Then, silence. The door opened, and Adrian stood there bloodied but alive. It's over, he said. She didn't ask how. He collapsed into the chair beside her, exhausted. She knelt, touching his hand. You're shaking. First time in a long while, he murmured. I thought I'd lost you both. You didn't, she said softly. You can stop fighting now. He looked at her like she'd just said something impossible. I don't know how. Then I'll teach you, she whispered. For a long while they sat in silence, the firelight flickering across their faces. Ethan slept upstairs, safe. And for the first time in years, Adrian Russo allowed himself to exhale. You still think you can live in my world? He asked finally. Maybe we don't have to, Olivia said. Maybe we build a new one. His hand tightened around hers. You have no idea how dangerous hope is. Then we'll be dangerous together. He laughed, the sound low, disbelieving, but full of something that felt like life. Outside, dawn broke over the hills. The storm had passed, but Olivia knew the real one was still out there, waiting. And yet, as she leaned her head against Adrian's shoulder, listening to the steady beat of his heart, she realized something profound. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of him, not of the world, not even of what came next. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. Olivia didn't sleep that night. The echoes of gunfire still clung to the walls, a ghostly hum in the silence. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Adrian Russo in the doorway. Blood streaked down his arm, his voice calm as if chaos were something he'd learned to command. But beneath the surface, she saw something else too. Fear. Not for himself, but for her. By dawn, the house was quiet again, except for the distant rhythm of rain and the sound of Ethan breathing in his sleep. She walked the hallways barefoot, tracing the edges of a world she didn't belong to, but couldn't walk away from. The marble, the portraits, the guarded windows. It was all too polished, too perfect, built to hide violence behind beauty. She found Adrian on the balcony as the first light broke through the fog. He stood motionless, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, his gaze fixed on the city in the distance. You didn't sleep, she said softly. Neither did you, he replied without turning. Your men, are they still here? Some. He finally looked at her. Enough. Enough for what? To end this, he said simply. His eyes were darker this morning, colder, the calm before a different kind of storm. You can't fight everyone, Adrian. I'm not fighting everyone, just the ones who forgot who I am. She crossed her arms, heart pounding. And what happens when they remember? Then they stop coming for you. For me, she almost laughed. This isn't about me. He took a step closer. It is now. The words sank deep. She wanted to argue, to tell him she didn't need saving, but the way he said it, quiet, certain, left no room for denial. I don't want to be your weakness, she whispered. Then don't be, he said. Be my reason. The words landed heavy in her chest. That day moved slowly. The house buzzed with coded conversations and the distant murmur of engines. Olivia stayed with Ethan, reading books, teaching him new signs, pretending everything was normal. But every time the door opened or a radio crackled, she flinched. That night Adrian didn't return for dinner. When he finally appeared, it was past midnight, his clothes damp with rain, his expression unreadable. "Handled?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "For now." "And after, for now?" "We rebuild." He poured himself a drink, but his hands were trembling. "You think you can just build something new out of this?" she asked. "Out of blood and lies?" "It's the only thing I know how to build," he said. "Then let me teach you something different." He looked up, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You keep saying that like I haven't already started learning." She didn't realize he'd crossed the room until he was standing close enough for her to feel his breath. "I'm dangerous, Olivia," he said. "You don't understand what that means." "Then show me," she said, voice steady. "Show me the truth, and let me decide." Something in him broke then, not in a violent way, but like a dam finally giving in to the pressure behind it. He kissed her, slow and searching, and she tasted everything he couldn't say. The guilt, the longing, the war between the man he was and the man he wanted to be. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. "If I stay here, I'll ruin you," he murmured. "If you leave, you'll lose yourself," she countered. "We both know which one's worse." The following days blurred together. The attacks stopped, at least on the surface. The city calmed. Adrian's men rotated quietly out of sight. But she saw the way he still carried tension in his shoulders, how his phone never left his reach. Peace, she realized, was just a different kind of vigilance. One evening she found him in the study surrounded by papers, maps, and names she didn't recognize. "You said it was over," she said. "It is." "Then what's all this?" "Insurance," he said, closing the folder. "In case they forget again. You can't build a future while you're still preparing for war. You think the world gives second chances?" "No," she said, stepping closer. "But people do." He stared at her for a long time, then finally closed the drawer. "Ethan likes pancakes better when you burn them," he said suddenly. She blinked. "What?" "You overcooked them this morning. He said they tasted like the diner. Said it smelled like you." She smiled, then stopped. "He remembers the diner?" "He remembers safety." The quiet between them turned soft, fragile. He reached for her hand, fingers brushing hers, hesitant but real. "You could leave," he said. "You should." "And go where?" "Anywhere. You've done enough." "I haven't done anything," she said. "I stayed, that's all." "That's more than most people ever do." He looked at her then with something almost like gratitude. "If I walk away, I'll lose everything I built," he said. "If you don't, you'll lose yourself," she whispered. His eyes softened. "You sound like her," he said. "Your wife?" "Yeah." He smiled faintly. "She was the only person who ever told me no." "Then maybe that's why you listen to me," Olivia said. "Because I'm not afraid to." He laughed quietly, a sound she wanted to keep. "No," he said. "You're afraid. You just do it anyway." That night he didn't sleep on the couch. Neither did she. It wasn't wild or rushed. It was quiet, deliberate, a wordless confession built out of shared scars. When dawn came, she woke to find his arm draped across her waist, the world outside finally silent. But silence, in his world, never lasted. At noon, a call shattered it. She caught his expression before he could hide it. Tight jaw, clenched teeth, eyes that said not again. "What is it?" she asked. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Adrian." Stay with Ethan, please." He was gone before she could stop him. Hours crawled by. She tried to distract Ethan with games, with stories, with pancakes, but her mind replayed that look on his face. She knew what it meant. Someone had drawn a new line, and he was going to erase it. At sunset, she heard tires on gravel, not Adrian's cars. She grabbed Ethan's hand and moved toward the panic room just as gunfire shattered the front glass. She slammed the steel door, locking it just in time. Ethan trembled against her, eyes wide. She signed safe, but her own hands were shaking. Minutes felt like hours. Then, a single knock. A voice. "Olivia, it's me." Relief hit her so hard she almost cried. She opened the door, and there he was, bruised but breathing. "It's over," he said again. This time she believed him. He looked exhausted, haunted, but alive. "You're bleeding," she said. Again. He smiled faintly. "You keep saying that like it's new." She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "You promised no more." "And I meant it," he said. "That was the last one. You said that before. This time I made sure." She searched his face for truth, found it in the small tremor of his hands, in the way he leaned against the wall like the fight had finally drained out of him. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now," he said, "we start over." "You really think we can?" "I don't know," he said. "But I know I can't do it without you." Her chest tightened. "You don't even know what starting over looks like. Then we'll figure it out together." He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Stay," he whispered, "not because you're trapped, but because you choose to." She nodded, unable to speak. When Ethan ran in, clutching his stuffed bear, Adrian dropped to his knees, scooped him up, and held him like he never meant to let go. Olivia stood there watching, realizing that somewhere between fear and fire, they'd built something resembling a family. Later, when the house was quiet again, Adrian found her in the kitchen. "I have one more confession," he said. "That sounds ominous. I'm not good at normal. I might never be." "Then we'll make our own version," she said. He smiled, tired but real. "I like the sound of that." She stepped closer, touching the scar on his jaw. "Does it hurt?" "Only when you're not here." "That's a terrible line." "Worked, though." She laughed, soft and disbelieving. "Yeah," she whispered. "It did." Outside, the rain started again, gentle this time, washing the night clean. Olivia leaned against him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart. For the first time since the diner, she didn't think about the danger waiting beyond the gates. She thought about Ethan's laughter, about pancakes and safety and the quiet promise of tomorrow. She thought about how chaos had brought them together, but choice, hers, his, both, was what would keep them there. When Adrian kissed her again, slow and sure, she knew there would be storms ahead. More fights, more scars. But she also knew something stronger had begun, something that no amount of darkness could undo. Because love, she'd learned, wasn't the absence of fear. It was walking into the fire anyway, and choosing to stay. The morning sun spilled across the wide glass windows of the Rousseau estate, glinting against the polished marble floors that had once seen blood. The silence was thick, fragile, the kind of quiet that comes not from peace, but from exhaustion. Olivia Bennet stood in the kitchen, stirring coffee that had already gone cold, watching Adrian from across the room. He was at the table with Ethan, helping him with a puzzle, his large hands moving with surprising gentleness as the boy pointed to shapes and colors, his small fingers signing excitedly when a piece fit. Olivia smiled faintly. Moments like this still didn't feel real. They had survived too much for mornings to look this soft, this domestic. Yet beneath the warmth of the scene, she could sense it. The tension that never really left Adrian's shoulders, the way his eyes darted once toward the window before focusing back on his son. He was home, yes, but not free. Neither of them were. "You're watching me again," Adrian said without looking up. His voice was low, teasing. "You're paranoid again," she countered. "Old habits." He glanced at her then, the corner of his mouth twitching. "You'll learn. To live like I'm constantly hunted? To live prepared," he corrected. "There's a difference." She crossed the room, setting the mug in front of him. "You could also try living normal for a change." "Define normal." "Breakfast without a gun within arm's reach." "You're assuming I'm armed," he said, but the glint in his eyes told her she was right. She shook her head, amused despite herself. "Ethan, finish your puzzle," he said softly, brushing his son's hair back. "Daddy has to talk to Olivia." The boy nodded, too focused on the sky-blue piece in his hand to care. Adrian stood, motioning for her to follow him into his office. The moment the door clicked shut, his demeanor shifted. The warmth vanished, replaced by focus. "They're testing boundaries again," he said, sliding a photo across the desk. It was grainy, taken from a distance. Two men leaning against a car outside a schoolyard. Her stomach tightened. "Is that—" "Yes," he said. "They were watching Ethan's school yesterday. I thought he wasn't going back yet. He's not. But someone wanted me to know they could find him when he does." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Handle it." "Adrian?" "No," he said firmly. "You don't get to talk me out of this. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to make sure you come back." His eyes softened then, the steel cracking for just a moment. "You sound like you've done this before. Waited for someone who might not return?" She nodded. "Yeah." He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "I always come back," he said quietly. "Promise me something," she whispered. "If it gets bad, really bad, don't make me bury another person I care about." "You won't," he said. "I'm done with the part of my life that makes graves." She wanted to believe him. She really did. But she'd learned that men like Adrian didn't get to be done. The world didn't forget. It just waited. That night, she couldn't sleep. The rain had returned, tapping gently against the windows, and every sound in the dark felt magnified. She lay awake, listening for footsteps that never came. When she finally drifted off, she dreamed of the diner, of Ethan running in, soaked and terrified, of blood and thunder, and a silver card pressed into her palm. When she woke, Adrian's side of the bed was cold. Panic clawed up her throat. She rushed downstairs barefoot, her heart hammering. He wasn't in the kitchen, or the study, or the garden. Only one of his guards remained by the door. "Where is he?" she demanded. "Mr. Russo left an hour ago," the man said. "He said not to wake you." "Did he say where he was going?" The guard hesitated. "Downtown, meeting with someone named Barrett." Olivia froze. James Barrett. The name she hadn't heard since the gala, since the night she'd seen him humiliated in front of the city's elite. He was supposed to have vanished after that, disgraced, ruined. Apparently not ruined enough. "Get the car," she said. "Ms. Bennett, Mr. Russo gave strict orders." "Do I look like someone who follows orders?" she snapped. The guard hesitated, then relented. Within minutes, the car was speeding toward the city. Her fingers gripped the edge of the seat as rain streaked the windows, her mind racing. Barrett was dangerous in a different way from the men Adrian usually dealt with. Cold, calculated, vengeful. The kind of man who smiled while twisting a knife. When they arrived, the guard parked a block away from an abandoned warehouse. "Stay here," he said. She ignored him, slipping out into the rain. Inside, voices echoed through the vast empty space. She moved closer, hiding behind a concrete pillar. "You should have stayed gone," Adrian's voice said, calm but sharp. "You humiliated me," Barrett replied, "in front of everyone." You humiliated yourself, Adrian said. You thought money bought you power. It doesn't. Not in my city. Your city? Barrett laughed. You think this place still belongs to you? You've gone soft, Russo. You let some diner girl turn you into a hero. You're not a hero. You're a criminal with a savior complex. Adrian didn't move. You're wrong, he said quietly. I'm a father with a conscience. Conscience doesn't keep you alive, Barrett sneered. No, Adrian agreed, but it makes living worth it. The sound of a gun cocking cut through the silence. Olivia's breath caught. Barrett stepped closer, his hand shaking slightly. I want you to beg, he said. Adrian's expression didn't change. You first. The gunshot that followed echoed through the building like thunder. For a heartbeat, she couldn't move. Then another shot, louder, closer. She ran. When she reached the open floor, Barrett was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, his gun skittering away. Adrian stood over him, his own weapon steady. You should have walked away, he said. Barrett's eyes flicked past him and found her. She's the reason you're weak, he spat. She'll destroy you. Adrian didn't even glance back. Maybe, he said, but at least I'll go down fighting for something that matters. He fired once more. The echo lingered long after the body fell still. Olivia stared at him, chest heaving, rain and tears blurring her vision. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly, lowering the gun. You left me no choice. I told you. I don't care what you told me, she said, voice trembling. You think you get to decide who fights for you? That's not how this works. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, he smiled. Not the dangerous kind. The tired, human kind. You're impossible, he murmured. So I've been told. He reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. When they returned home, Ethan ran to them, eyes wide, signing questions too fast to follow. Adrian crouched, signed back. We're okay. It's over. But Olivia saw the hesitation, the shadow that crossed his face. Nothing was ever really over. That night she found him on the porch, cigarette burning low between his fingers. I thought you quit, she said. I thought so too. She joined him, the cool night air wrapping around them. What now? Now? He echoed. Now we try to live like people who deserve the peace we keep chasing. You think that's possible? I think, he said, it's worth trying. He turned to her then, eyes reflecting the dim porch light. You stayed, he said softly, after everything. You asked me to. I didn't think you would. You should stop underestimating me. Never, he said, voice rough. She smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. You know, she murmured, I used to believe love was supposed to make life easier. And now? Now I think it just makes it mean something. He exhaled slowly, flicking ash into the dark. That's dangerous wisdom. Then we'll be dangerous together. He laughed under his breath, the sound low and warm. You and your words, he said. They keep me sane. You're welcome. Don't get used to me saying thank you. Too late. When he kissed her this time, there was no desperation, no fear, just quiet certainty. Somewhere inside, she knew they were still walking a tightrope between danger and redemption. But for now, under the soft hum of night, Olivia Bennett allowed herself to believe in the fragile, beautiful possibility of peace. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The first signs of spring came quietly. The air around the estate softened. The bare trees began to breathe again, and for the first time since the night of the fire and the blood, Olivia Bennett felt like she could breathe too. The chaos that had defined their lives for months had receded into whispers. The men who watched the gates no longer moved like soldiers waiting for war. Ethan's laughter echoed freely through the halls. The kind of laughter that used to sound too fragile to last. And Adrian, he was different now. Not softer exactly, but steadier, as if he'd finally allowed himself to believe that the worst had already happened, and he'd survived it. The nightmares still came sometimes. She'd wake in the middle of the night to find him sitting up, staring into the dark, breathing hard. He never told her what he saw, but she didn't need to ask. She just reached for him, lacing her fingers through his until the tension left his body. Every morning after one of those nights he was quieter, but when Ethan ran into the room, Adrian's whole face changed. The light returned, even if only for a while. Olivia knew what that meant. He was fighting for something again. One evening she stood at the edge of the garden watching him teach Ethan how to plant something small and green. A stubborn sprig of basil. Ethan insisted would grow bigger than Daddy's hand. She smiled, leaning on the railing as the sun slid low behind the hills. For the first time since meeting him, she didn't feel like an outsider in his world. "He's getting better at this," she said when Adrian came to stand beside her. "He has a good teacher," he replied. "You're not bad at this either," she teased. "Growing things." "I'm learning," he said quietly. "You both are teaching me." "Patience?" "Peace," he corrected, and the word lingered between them like something sacred. Later that night, after Ethan was asleep, Adrian sat at the kitchen table, a glass of whiskey untouched in front of him. Olivia joined him, curling her legs under herself on the chair across from his. "You've been thinking," she said. "That's dangerous." He smiled faintly. "I've been approached." "By who?" "A man named Reynolds." "FBI?" She froze. "He found you?" "I let him," he said. "He's been circling for months. Wants information about the old families, the shell companies, the trade routes." "You're not—" "No," he said firmly. "I'm not going back. But I can give him what he needs to make sure they don't rise again." "And what does he give you?" "Freedom," Adrian said. "Clean records. A future for Ethan that doesn't come with a target." "And for you?" "Peace," he said simply. She stared at him for a long moment. "You trust them?" "I don't trust anyone," he said. "But I'm done being hunted. It's time I finish this." "How?" "By telling the truth." The next few days passed in quiet tension. Adrian met privately with Reynolds twice, each meeting stretching late into the night. Olivia didn't ask for details, and he didn't offer them. But she could see the weight of it pressing on him, the old ghosts pulling him back. On the fourth night he came to her room exhausted, his shoulders heavy. "It's done," he said softly. "They have everything. And you?" "I'm free," he said. But his tone was distant, unsure, like a man still learning what freedom meant. Weeks passed, and life found its rhythm. The estate grew warmer, the shadows shorter. Olivia opened the diner again. Her diner, though it looked nothing like the one she'd left behind. Adrian had bought it quietly, rebuilt it, and left the keys on the counter one morning with a note. "For when you're ready to remember who you were before me." She kept the name the same, even the chipped bell above the door. Ethan loved to sit at the counter, legs swinging, drawing on napkins. Adrian visited often, usually at closing time when the lights dimmed, and the city outside glowed gold. "Still burns the pancakes," he teased one night. "Tradition," she said. "You wouldn't know anything about that." "I'm learning," he replied, his eyes warm. There were nights when the ghosts came back, whispers from the past that neither of them could quite silence. Sometimes it was a headline about a man found dead on the docks, sometimes the faint echo of an old name resurfacing in the news. But the fear that once paralyzed her now only reminded her how far they'd come. They'd built something out of ruins, something fragile but real. And in that fragility, Olivia found strength. One evening she closed up the diner and walked home with Adrian through the quiet streets. The air smelled of rain, the kind that would come just after midnight. You ever think about leaving? She asked. Sometimes, he said. But then I remember what's here. Ethan? You, he said simply. She looked at him, surprised by how easily he said it. You make it sound simple. It is, he said. For the first time in my life, it is. The next morning, a letter arrived addressed to him. No name, no return address, just a symbol pressed into the seal. An old crest she'd learned to recognize. The past wasn't finished. She handed it to him without a word. He opened it slowly, read it once, then again, his face unreadable. What does it say? She asked. It says they know I talked. Reynolds? No. The others, the ones who survived. What are you going to do? Leave, he said. Her heart clenched. What? Not forever, just long enough to end this before it reaches you. No. Olivia. You promised me no more running, no more disappearing into the dark. And I meant it, he said. But if I stay, they'll come for you. For Ethan. Then we face it together. You can't fight what's coming. You've said that before, she said, her voice trembling. And yet we're still here. Because of luck, he said. And because you make me hesitate. That's dangerous. Maybe hesitation is what keeps you human, she said. He stepped closer, cupping her face in his hands. You changed everything, he whispered. Don't let me ruin that. She shook her head, tears stinging. Then don't go. But she knew he would. He kissed her softly, a promise and an apology all at once. Take care of him, he said. Take care of yourself. And then he was gone. The days after felt like winter again. The house was too quiet, the world too big. Ethan asked for his father every morning, his small hands spelling where, when back. Olivia told him the truth. Soon. She didn't know if it was a lie or a prayer. 2 weeks later, she woke to headlights sweeping the driveway. Her heart stopped. She rushed to the door, but it wasn't Adrian. It was Reynolds. His face was grim. Where is he? She demanded. Alive, Reynolds said. Barely. He gave us everything we needed. The families are done. But he's hurt. Where? A safe hospital downtown, but no press, no visitors. He's under protection until we clean up what's left. Take me to him, she said. Reynolds hesitated, then nodded. When she saw Adrian again, he looked smaller somehow, pale against the white sheets, wires running from his arm. But his eyes opened when she entered, and the faintest smile crossed his face. You came. Of course I did, she said, tears spilling freely. You thought I wouldn't? I hoped you wouldn't have to. You really think I'd let you die without arguing first? He chuckled weakly. That's my Olivia. She sat beside him, holding his hand carefully. It's over, she whispered. You did it. We did it, he corrected. You and Ethan, you gave me something worth saving. His voice was barely a breath. Promise me something, he said. Anything. When I'm gone. Don't, she snapped. You're not dying. If I do, he continued, don't let him forget me. Tell him I tried. She squeezed his hand hard. You'll tell him yourself. He smiled, his eyes closing. Maybe, but he didn't die. Against all odds, Adrian Russo survived again. It took months, physical therapy, long nights, quiet recovery. But he came back. Not the same, but alive. When he returned home, Ethan ran into his arms so hard that Adrian nearly fell over. Olivia stood in the doorway watching them, her heart full. Later, when they were alone, he pulled her close. You saved me, he said. Twice now. You make it very difficult not to, she replied. What happens now? Now, he said, we start over. For real this time. They did. Not perfectly, not easily, but honestly. The house became a home, the diner a small piece of their new life. Ethan grew taller, his laughter louder. Adrian learned how to cook badly, how to sleep through the night, how to live without looking over his shoulder. And Olivia, she learned how to stop waiting for the storm. Because the truth was, it never really left. It just became part of them, a reminder of how close they'd come to losing everything, and how much they'd fought to keep it. One evening, years later, as the sun dipped low over the ocean, she watched Adrian and Ethan playing catch in the yard. The boy was older now, faster, his laughter echoing across the field. Adrian looked up, caught her watching, and smiled. She smiled back, her chest full. She'd once believed peace was something you found at the end of the road, after the chaos had burned out. But standing there, she realized peace was this. The sound of their voices, the soft light over the hills, the knowledge that even if the world never stopped spinning, they'd built something that lasted anyway. When Adrian came to her, his hands still warm from the sun, he pressed a small silver coin into her palm, the same one Ethan had given her that night in the diner so long ago. "For luck," he said. "We don't need luck anymore," she whispered. "Maybe not," he said. "But I like remembering where we started." She closed her fingers around it, the metal cool against her skin. "Where we started," she echoed, smiling. The waves crashed somewhere far beyond the hills, steady and eternal. And for the first time in years, Olivia Bennet knew that no matter what came next, they had already won. It had been 5 years since the storm, 5 years since the night when everything changed, and peace stopped being a dream and started becoming their life. The Russo estate was no longer a fortress. It had become a home filled with warmth, laughter, and the kind of silence that came not from fear, but from contentment. The marble floors still gleamed, but they were now marked by Ethan's scuffed sneakers, and the faint scratches of a dog Adrian swore he didn't want, but secretly adored. Olivia Bennet stood in the doorway of the sunlit kitchen, watching her 2 favorite people bicker over burnt pancakes. Adrian, now with flecks of silver at his temples, was flipping something that could generously be described as breakfast, while Ethan, nearly a teenager, signed furiously that his dad was cheating by using too much syrup. "He gets that stubbornness from you," Adrian said over his shoulder. "He gets the good parts from me," Olivia replied, pouring herself coffee. "The rest is all you." "Good parts?" Adrian raised a brow. "You mean the parts that don't talk back?" "Those don't exist in this family." He smiled, that small, unguarded smile that still had the power to disarm her. Moments like this were the reward, the quiet aftermath of all the chaos. But even peace, she'd learned, wasn't permanent. It was something you protected, something fragile that needed both vigilance and love. Later that afternoon, Adrian stood on the porch, reading a letter that had arrived without warning. The handwriting was unfamiliar, elegant, almost delicate. Olivia joined him, curiosity flickering. "Who's it from?" "An old name," he said quietly. "One I didn't expect to see again." "Is it over?" she asked. "The old life?" "It never really ends," he said. "But it changes shape." He handed her the letter. It was from Reynolds, the same FBI agent who'd once promised Adrian freedom in exchange for information. "We need your help again," it read. "A new network has surfaced, one that learned from the fall of the old families. Someone inside is using your name." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Using your name how?" Olivia asked. "To build power," he said. "To rebuild what I destroyed." "Then it's not your problem anymore." "It is," he said simply. "Because if I ignore it, someone else pays the price." "Adrian!" "I won't let Ethan grow up with my shadow hanging over him." She saw the look in his eyes, the same one she'd seen years ago, when he'd walked into a war zone for the sake of his son. He was older now, slower maybe, but that fire hadn't died. It scared her and moved her all at once. "Then I'm coming with you," she said. No. Yes. Olivia, you taught me how to stop running, she said. Don't ask me to start again. He didn't argue after that. Instead, he kissed her forehead and whispered, Then we do this together. They didn't tell Ethan the full story, only that they needed to travel for a few days. He stayed with friends from school, unaware of the ghosts his parents were about to face. The journey took them back to the city where it all began, Boston, where the lights burned late and memories still hid in every alley. The diner still stood, though under new ownership, the neon sign now a different shade of blue. Olivia paused outside, her reflection staring back from the window. Feels smaller, she murmured. You've just grown bigger, Adrian said. Or maybe, she replied, we both stopped being afraid. They met Reynolds that evening in a quiet hotel suite overlooking the harbor. He looked older, too, more tired. Russo, he said, shaking Adrian's hand. Didn't think I'd see you again. You shouldn't have to, Adrian said. But here we are. Reynolds gestured to a folder on the table. They call themselves the Dominion. They're operating out of New York. Drugs, weapons, trafficking. But their structure looks familiar, hierarchical, family-based. And the name they use to open doors? He slid a photograph across the table. It was a warehouse, with a logo spray-painted in white, a stylized R inside a circle. Adrian stared at it for a long time. Someone's resurrecting the Russo name, Reynolds said. And they're not shy about it. Who's leading them? Adrian asked. We don't know, but whoever it is has money, manpower, and someone on the inside feeding them intel. Inside the bureau? Maybe. That's why I called you. You know how these people think. You want me to go back in, Adrian said flatly. Not as one of them, Reynolds said. As bait. Olivia's pulse quickened. Absolutely not. He's the only one they'll believe, Reynolds said. They already think he's alive and rebuilding. If he walks in, they'll follow. Long enough for us to take them down. Adrian was silent for a long moment, then said, If I do this, you guarantee my family's safety. I already have people watching the boy, Reynolds said. We'll keep them safe. Not people, Adrian said. Names, faces, someone I can trust. You have my word. Olivia stepped forward. And mine. I'm not sitting this out. This isn't your fight, Reynolds said. It became my fight the moment I chose him, she said. Adrian looked at her then, and something unspoken passed between them. They both knew she wouldn't back down. The operation began 3 nights later. Adrian went in first, dressed in the tailored darkness of his old world. Black suit, steady gaze, the quiet menace of a man who once ruled the streets. Olivia watched from a nearby building with Reynolds and his team, earpiece in place, her heart pounding with every word she heard through the comms. You came back, a man's voice sneered through static. Didn't think you'd have the guts. Rumors of my death were exaggerated, Adrian replied evenly. You're using my name. That ends tonight. We're using your legacy, the man said. There's a difference. Legacy doesn't belong to thieves. Neither did yours, the man shot back. You built your empire on blood, Russo. Don't pretend you're the hero now. Olivia clenched her fists. She wanted to scream at the disembodied voice that he was wrong, that Adrian had changed, that redemption was possible. But then she heard the gun cock. You should have stayed gone, the man said. A scuffle erupted, a crash, a shout, gunfire. Adrian, she yelled into the mic, but static swallowed her voice. Reynolds barked orders. The team moved in, and she ran before anyone could stop her. The warehouse loomed like a beast in the rain, its doors half open, smoke curling into the night. Inside, chaos reigned, shattered crates, bullet holes, men shouting. And in the center of it all, Adrian stood over a fallen figure, his gun lowered, his face grim. The man at his feet coughed blood and laughed weakly. "You can't kill it," he rasped. "The Dominion isn't a name. It's an idea. You can't kill an idea." Adrian's jaw tightened. "No," he said quietly. "But I can make sure it dies with me." He turned, saw Olivia running toward him, and his eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" "Saving you," she said breathlessly. "Again. You never listen. You never stay alive without me." Before he could respond, the man on the floor reached for something. Olivia saw the movement and shouted, but it was too late. The explosion tore through the floor, throwing them backward. When she came to, the world was ringing. Fire licked the edges of the room. Adrian lay beside her, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, his arm shielding her even unconscious. "Adrian," she whispered, shaking him. "Adrian, wake up." He stirred, groaned, and pushed himself up. "We need to move." They stumbled toward the exit, smoke burning their lungs. Outside, Reynolds's team was already pulling survivors from the wreck. Sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian collapsed to his knees, coughing, as Reynolds rushed to them. "You're insane," Reynolds said. "You both should be dead." "You're welcome," Adrian rasped. "You got your proof?" "Enough to bury them for good," Reynolds said. "You did it." Adrian looked at Olivia, then at the burning warehouse. "We did it," he said softly. Again. The next morning, the city headlines read, "Underworld crumbles as FBI raids secret syndicate. The Dominion destroyed." But Olivia didn't care about the headlines. She only cared about the quiet rise and fall of Adrian's chest as he slept beside her, his hand still tangled with hers. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to its fragile rhythm. The threat was gone. Maybe not forever, but long enough for them to breathe again. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Adrian sat with Ethan on the porch, teaching him how to whistle. The boy laughed, the sound pure and bright. Olivia watched from the doorway, her heart full. When Adrian looked up and met her eyes, she saw it. The peace he'd been chasing all his life finally settling in. Later, as they lay together under the soft hum of the night, Olivia whispered, "Do you ever think about how it all began? The diner, the rain, your son?" "Every day," he said. "If I hadn't walked in that night, we never would have met," she finished. "You never would have found peace." "You think this is peace?" he asked. She smiled. "It's close enough." He kissed her forehead. "Then I'll take it." Outside, the world went on. No sirens, no shadows, just the steady rhythm of a life rebuilt from ashes. And somewhere deep inside her, Olivia Bennett understood the truth. Love hadn't saved them from the darkness. It had taught them how to walk through it and still find the light. Under the golden light of another quiet evening, Olivia Bennett stood on the porch of the house that had once been a fortress, and was now a home. The wind carried the soft laughter of Ethan and the low hum of Adrian's voice as he taught his son how to whistle, a sound that echoed with a peace they had fought too hard to earn. It wasn't the kind of peace that came from perfection. It was the kind that grew from survival, from choosing to keep loving even when life made it almost impossible. She looked at them and realized that the storms they had survived together weren't curses. They were lessons. Each scar, each sleepless night, each moment of fear had built something unbreakable between them. Olivia once believed love was supposed to rescue her, to erase the pain. But standing there now, she understood that real love doesn't save you, it strengthens you. It gives you the courage to face the darkness and still reach for the light. Adrian had taught her that redemption isn't found in running away from who you were, but in choosing every single day to be someone better. And Ethan, with his laughter and innocence, reminded her that even in a broken world, there's always something worth protecting. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Painting the sky in shades of orange and rose, Olivia whispered to herself, "Peace isn't a destination. It's a choice. No matter how heavy your past is, no matter how deep your pain runs, there's always a way to rebuild." Sometimes, the people who enter your life in the middle of chaos are the ones who help you rediscover who you really are. Love isn't about perfection or promises. It's about standing beside someone when the world tells you to walk away. It's about believing in tomorrow even when today hurts. If Olivia and Adrian taught us anything, it's that healing isn't a miracle. It's a decision you make, one day at a time. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and the power of love that fights through the dark, then take a moment. Leave me a comment below. Tell me what part of their journey spoke to you most. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss the next story that might remind you. No matter where you come from, hope is always just one choice away.